In Serbia, tens of thousands have joined anti-government protests in the central city of Kragujevac. Serbian students have been leading massive demonstrations for months now, demanding accountability from the government. This follows the deaths of 15 people in November last year when a freshly renovated train station roof collapsed. Protesters blame the accident on corruption. Joining me now is DW reporter Olivera Živkovic. Olivera, let's talk more about these protests. They've been going on for months now, and they seem to be getting bigger. What exactly are the protesters demanding?
That's right, David. So the protests have been ongoing for months all across Serbia. Today, it was just the latest protest in the central city of Kragujevac. Students came from all over Serbia, from different cities. They marched into the city, and some of them even ran marathons. Some of them cycled. So tens of thousands of people came to protest against the government corruption and to demand justice and accountability for the tragedy in Novi Sad. So that has been the main demand by the students, and this is what they wanted to reinstate today. They were greeted by locals with food and drinks who were singing patriotic songs. So it was very emotional. You could see images of people hugging students, crying even. So it was a very emotional day, and it was a 15-hour blockade of the main boulevards and roads, and it ended with 15 minutes of silence to commemorate the victims.
And the protesters are saying that this incident, this tragedy, is the result of corruption in the government, particularly on the part of President Aleksandar Vučić. What is his response to the protests?
That's right. So at the same time, while these protests were happening in Kragujevac, President held a rally in another city. It was supposed to be initially in Novi Sad, where the tragedy happened, but because people expressed concern and they were upset and angry about that, he actually switched it last minute to another city. And there were reports, that even people from the neighboring Bosnia and Herzegovina came with buses to, show their support for Vučić. But he's basically saying that, foreign powers are influencing the protest in Serbia, trying to, overthrow the government. He's calling it a colored revolution without providing any evidence or saying who these countries actually are. So right now he's also saying, he's ready for a dialogue. He wants, students to stop the blockades and sort of initiate this conversation with the government. And he's even mentioning a possibility of new elections.
What are the chances of that happening?
So far, it seems like the chances are very low because opposition parties have said that they, would boycott the new elections because they blame the government of irregularities during previous elections. So it's unclear, but it seems very unlikely.
Now, Serbia has been an EU candidate for well over a decade now. What is the EU saying about these protests and about these allegations of corruption?
Very little, David. The European Union has stayed largely silent for the past several months. Only now, recently, in the past several days, we've heard something from the European Commissioner for Enlargement, Marta Kos. She basically published an open letter saying that, the Serbian government should allow peaceful assemblies, but also open a swift investigation into the tragedy. So, we're hearing some statements, but not from top officials like Ursula von der Leyen. So right now, we're still hearing very little. We've also heard Russia saying, for example, that, West is trying to overthrow the government. So we're hearing all these different statements from different countries, but students are saying they will continue blockading the roads and protesting until their demands are met.
DW reporter Olivera Živkovic, thank you so much.